All right, all right, all right, all right. How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? Welcome to Timber Talk, navigating the political force. I am your host, American Lumberjack, aka Frankie, and I have wind in here. I have lots of wind. The flag is flowing in the back for America, right? So we have come to another week with more information, more news, true news, not something for clicks, likes, and views or ratings. Um, so if you guys are joining me for the first time, I am your host, American Lumberjack, aka Frankie. Thank you for joining me. If you guys could do all of the things with the clicking and the liking and the subscribing and the notification bells, and hop into the comment sections of all the social media platforms and have the conversations that need to be had. I'm just making sure I've had some sound issues, so I'm just making sure my sound is good and coming through loud and clear for everybody. I haven't gotten any phone calls yet, so I think my sound is sounding like it's supposed to. Um, we've made some changes and stuff with with the sound and whatnot. So we're going to jump right into it with our ding dong of the day, and I'm going to preface this ding dong of the day with, what are we doing in America? This ding dong of the day is a candidate who won the primary for the Democrats, who will be running for state senate out of Oklahoma. What are we doing? When did we lose decorum? When did we lose professionalism? Because our ding dong of the day is a very special breed. And I'm just going to let you guys see it for yourself, and we'll talk about it before we jump into the show. Check this out.
Mark Wayne Mullen is a terrible senator. Do not vote for him. He is a Christian nationalist, a mediocre white man.
Yeah, so Oklahoma, that is your Democrat nominee to run for senator. And she's using the Mean Girls soundtrack, so that's why the audio looks off and so on and so forth. And then she does a little voiceover at the end, calling this man a white Christian nationalist. This is Nikila Thomas, a woman that it has dead eyes. If you go look her up, Nikila, it's N''Kyla, I think is how she spells it. It's strange spelling. But this is what we've allowed to get into a position where she could potentially become Oklahoma's next senator. Do you guys not get it yet? We got Mom Donnie in office in New York as the mayor of New York City because of people that saw him and thought this would be a good idea. And it was because of the laziness of others who sat idly by, who are now complaining about the actions of this man. We have the same thing happening in Michigan with another Muslim who won their primary and probably will win. And I do think I'm going to do a special. Maybe, don't hold me to it, but I'm thinking I might do a special on the candidacy of the upcoming elections, both Republican and Democrats, because you need to know. And most people don't take the time to sit down and learn who they're actually voting for, what they're actually voting for, who backs the people that they're voting for. But this woman, Nikila, one more time for the one time. Let's check it out again. This is your Democrat nominee, primary nominee, Oklahoma.
Mark Wayne Mullen is a terrible senator. Do not vote for him. He is a Christian nationalist, a mediocre white man.
You see it. You see it. Midterms are coming up. You need to do your due diligence. If you say you are a responsible voting American, do your due diligence on your candidacy. If I were a Democrat, I would not vote for this lady. Right? If I were a Democrat, I wouldn't vote for Ted Cruz. Or a Republican, I wouldn't vote for Ted Cruz. Why? Because Ted Cruz isn't for America. He's for another nation. And this lady's just bat crap crazy. Kind of reminds you of that Lindsay Clancy lady in the eyes. She's got dead eyes. I think personally Lindsay Clancy might be possessed, but this lady as well, making a burn book, kind of like voodoo, putting another person in there. And I get it for clicks, likes, and views, but that wasn't funny. That was weird. And just like the dude in Michigan, he did the Blue's Clues things to tell you how to vote. Right? He thinks so highly of you that he uses something that teaches children, not older children, but young children, to teach you how to vote. Very strange. Very, very strange. But without further ado, let's jump into the show. I have a pretty good show for you in store today. Let's get into it with opening with prayer. Dear Heavenly Father God, we thank you for today. We thank you for this awesome opportunity and the blessings that you have provided us, Lord. We thank you for the protection that you have given us that allowed us to get to this point today. Lord, I pray that we speak in truth, we speak in reality, and we speak in honesty, Lord, so that we can uphold the integrity that you have bestowed upon us, Father. And Lord, everyone under the sound of my voice, Lord, bless them to overfilling, Lord. Give them health, give them wisdom, and give them prosperity where it's needed, Lord. In Jesus' mighty name I pray, amen. So let's just jump right into it. We don't have some crazy opener. We're going to jump right into our first segment here, cyber war. Cyber war, right? And it is what it sounds like, right? Cyber attacks have been happening for years. All over the United States, they have been happening for years, and we hear about them, and I feel personally sometimes that they're for scare tactics to get people to vote a certain way, but we're back at it again, right? So America has become so consumed with Israel and Iran and wars in the Middle East that China has been quietly attacking us at home. And not just at home, they've been attacking our partnerships and trade routes by, if you guys follow the show and have been following the show, we know that China has been greasing the pockets of the political opposition of the current sitting administration in Taiwan. And their hopes is to cut America out altogether. For those that don't understand the importance of Taiwan, you know, they talked about chips under Joe Biden. They talked about chips under President Trump's first term, and they're talking about chips now and rare earth minerals to make those chips. Well, we built these chips factories. Well, that Taiwan is the #1 chips manufacturer in the world. And what would happen if China got a hold of them? What would happen? That's a real question. What would happen if China got a hold of the #1 chips manufacturer in the world? Well, we don't care about those chips. Well, our planes that fight in wars use those chips. Matter of fact, the planes that fly you across the country use those chips. Your cars use those chips. Your cell phones use those chips. Rockets that we use to defend and attack use those chips. Bombs that we use to defend and attack use those chips. Vehicles in the military use those chips. Your toaster probably uses those chips. If you have a smart item, it's more than likely using those chips. So if you don't care, then you don't care about all the amenities that you have in your day-to-day life. And you don't care about protecting our country, right? But America has become so consumed with what's going on in the Middle East, which I thought we got out of the Middle East after 22 years of being there, but we're right back. 11 different nations are involved in this Middle Eastern conflict, and they've changed the definition of a world war once again. And I think we're back at another global war on terror. There's more than 90 nations in the world right now currently fighting, not conflicting, fighting, taking lives, carpet bombing people, striking people. It's all over, right? But we've become so consumed with this that we've just left the back door open and the chicken got out, right? The Justice Department and the FBI have disputed or disrupted a Chinese state-sponsored cyber operation targeting sensitive American networks, right? The operation reportedly began no later than 2018. So this has been going on. Let's do the math. We got to count with our fingers because we're a little slow right here. 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. That would be 9 years, but we don't count the year that we started. We go from that. So 8 years, right? 8 years ago. And the FBI knew about this, right? That means that China's linked hackers may have been operating against America for nearly 8 years, right? Before the platforms were disabled. And it's gotten worse since this war has started, right? The hackers used two complementary platforms called QScan and QT Router. And again, if you are a long-term follower of the show, we talked about these platforms a long time ago. According to the Justice Department, however, those platforms were created to and operated by Chinese-based companies called Nanjing and Shenzhou Network Technology Company, right? Federal authorities say the company, these particular companies provided hacking services to paying customers. So that means that anybody that was willing to pay the penny could hack, right? And have protections in those hackings. If you know anything about hacking, whether it's ethical or non-ethical hacking, you have systems in place to protect you, right? Those alleged customers included China's Ministry of State Security and the People's Liberation Army. So China's military and their State Department were using these platforms to hack into America, right? And they did this in plain English. The company was allegedly providing cyber attack capabilities to Chinese intelligence and military agencies. QScan searched for vulnerable internet-connected devices. So if you have headphones that have a connection, it's scanned for it. Your cell phones, it's scanned for it. Your microwave that connects to the internet, it's scanned for it. Your refrigerator, it's scanned for it. Your gaming controllers, it's scanned for it. It's scanned for all of this stuff because there's digital footprints and data that goes through those things, right? And have any of you out there ever been like talking amongst your friends or family around your phone, and then the next thing you know, you pick up your phone and there's a commercial or ad or a link to something in your Facebook feed or Twitter feed or whatever feed that you're feeding from, and it is exactly what you were talking about? Yeah, they pick up on that type of stuff, right? This program could automatically compromise thousands of devices and add them to a QT router network, right? The QT router then would combine those infected devices with commercial proxy servers and services and leased virtual private servers. That allowed the hackers to conceal the Chinese origin of their activity. And attacks could appear to be coming from compromised devices inside another country, right? So they use a virtual private network to say, oh, someone from Canada's hacking into us, when in all actuality, it's someone in China. The Justice Department says that the operation successfully breached or attempted to breach some of America's most sensitive institutions. The known victims of the targets included the Justice Department itself, NASA, the Federal Reserve. They also included the Department of Energy, Health and Human Resources, the National Institute of Health, and the United States Senate. Now, why would you want to hack the United States Senate? Could it be to know what bills they're discussing or talking about, or maybe trying to find out who these senators are rubbing shoulders with. So maybe you could get your penny in there and throw it down and maybe sway some senators, right? They even went into defense contractors and financial institutions, universities, and American critical infrastructures were also repeatedly targeted. Not every attempt was successful, but some were. Many of them, actually. The hackers reportedly failed to enter NASA's network after targeting a VPN vulnerability in 2019. So, for 8 years, they have been finger banging us digitally and taking data. And if you knew anything about it before, they own GNC, you know, America's largest supplement provider. They own it now. They have for a while. And they were using, in most GNCs on basis, particularly, they were using these particular services to take something they own and hack something they owned and make it look like somebody else was doing it while stealing your data. Every time you swipe your card, data taken, email addresses, phone numbers, credit card numbers, banking numbers, routing numbers, all of these things, social security numbers. Imagine what they could do with those. They also were unsuccessful in their attempt to access the Senate networks, at least allegedly, because they were unsuccessful in March of 2026. And they also couldn't get into certain American hospitals, right? But other operations that were successful, according to the federal authorities, the hackers stole information from the defense contractors. You know, the people that are contracted to make certain things that go boom for us, like Lockheed and Martin, right? They were successful in financial institutions and a lot of universities in 2024, right? They also breached 3 unnamed energy department factories and laboratories with the NIH. Why were these things unnamed, right? What if they know about it? Why can't we know about it, right? They were also successful in hacking into the Human and Health Agency. The FBI and the Justice Department now have seized the key internet domains that were used by QScan and the QT routers, but that doesn't mean it's going to stop. They could just move on and create another one. Those domains, however, were built into platforms for malware purposes. Most of the times people think of malware as like, oh, it's a pop-up and it's stopping me from viewing my pictures, and if I don't pay this, that's ransomware. Malware oftentimes is very quiet. And we hear so much about, I know for God knows, a straight year of 2025, all we heard was national security, national security, national security, national security. It's going to hurt us because that's a breach of national security, national security. Well, this is a national security issue. Allowing Chinese students into universities that were sending data back to China and the CCP is a national security issue. Allowing Chinese immigrants to join our military and leak information back to China is a national security issue. But our senators and Congress and House of Representatives, Congress, would have you to believe that TikTok needed to be shut down or purchased because it was a national security issue. But when they looked, the report said that TikTok wasn't even taking your data. However, Facebook was. And guess who Facebook was selling your data to? China. Yep. Did Facebook get shut down for that? Nope. Seems like our own companies in our own country were more of a national security threat than TikTok. But I digress. That's an old story. We've moved on from that. They also were able to steal your grandmother's Facebook password. Speaking of Facebook, right? This was not a teenager in a basement attempting to prove that they could break into a website. This was, allegedly, they say, a whole country digging through the nervous system of the United States. Energy laboratories, hospitals, financial institutions, defense contractors, critical infrastructure. aka a national security threat, a war, cybersecurity war. And they're just now letting us nationally know about this. This is just now becoming a story. When I broke this in 2025, that this was happening, that these programs were out there, that they were being used. Hey, heck, if you want to, you could use it. I wouldn't advise it, but you could. Nearly 8 years of testing American defense. And they weren't stopping all of it. They weren't. You think just because they didn't get into some senator's email that we're good? If they got into defense contractors' systems, imagine all the data they could get. F-35 plans, how to build it, Patriot missile defense systems. Imagine if they could disrupt the Patriot defense missiles before they ever came out of their fuselage. Imagine. Really should start making you think. Kind of strange, if you ask me. But this is where we are right now. I don't know why I went away from that. I apologize. Haha. Funny. This is where we are right now. And it's baffling, to be honest. This is where we are. Where we're just so busy fighting a war for national security purposes, so we're told, while at the same time, somebody's back here picking our pockets. America has spent an extraordinary amount of attention, money, and military power on the Middle East. We debate Israel, we debate Iran, we debate Gaza, we debate ceasefires, bombing campaigns, military alliances, and regime changes. Meanwhile, China has been making moves against the United States itself. Not through a proxy force, thousands of miles away, not through regional militia, right in our own backyard. Because we got caught with our pants down. And if this was the only issue with China, it's salvageable. We could salvage it. But the fact that they are diving headfirst into our allies and greasing pockets there, that's a problem. But moving from foreign hackers testing the security of America's networks, we turn to a different system that America's also expected to be secure in: our elections. And now, a new legal battle could determine which mail-in ballots are accepted in 2026 midterms. Again, we're back at the midterms, baby. We should never left them. But let's get into it. Our next story is mail-in hurdle. And I think I hit a button. Let me make sure I'm good over here. Coming in clear. Fantastic. So, supporting secure mail-in voting, but not doing what it takes to secure them is a problem, right? And election security and protecting lawful voters are not something that should be a competing goal. It shouldn't be something that even is a question. Both sides should want this. Matter of fact, we shouldn't have two sides of anything. This should just be America and American voting and American politics, not Democrat, Republican, left, right, independent. We should all just be a cohesive force and vote for the one that wants to put America first, right? But this shouldn't be a competition. A new federal restriction on mail-in voting has taken effect ahead of the 2026 election midterms. This is a win for the Trump administration because they've been trying frivolously to do so with mail-in ballots, right? The rules implement portions of the executive order signed by Donald Trump in March, which we know that a lot of federal judges stabbed it like Caesar in the back to make sure that it could go no further. But some of the portions of it have made it through. The order directs the federal government to create a state-specific list of citizens eligible to participate in federal elections. It also requires states to provide postal services which list a voter's approved mail-in ballot. You have to have their mail-in ballot line up with their actual address, right? Mail-in ballot envelopes must include standardized markings, a unique barcode, and allow the ballots to be tracked. Kind of like how when you get a package, got a tracking number. And some of us, you know how you are. Oh, when's my package going to get here? When's my package going to get here? You're checking it every single day. It's in Tennessee today. Oh, it's in South Carolina today. Oh, it's in the state. I'm going to get it soon. Yeah, we should be able to track our ballots to see exactly where they're going. Under the new rule, the Postal Service could refuse to deliver mail-in ballots that fail to meet the federal requirements, as it should be. Why is this even a question or a thing to argue, right? That could include ballots sent to individuals who do not appear on the approved state list. Again, why was this ever not a thing in the first place? It could also include ballot envelopes that do not contain the required markings or barcode. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, why wasn't this a thing to begin with, right? The administration says that the changes are intended to strengthen election security, confirm voter eligibility, and improve ballot tracking. But 23 Democrat-led states, the District of Columbia, Pennsylvania's governor, have filed a federal lawsuit. Why? They go on to argue, right? The president and the state postal services are exceeding their lawful authority. They say the Constitution gives states the primary responsibility for administering elections, while Congress passes the authority to alter the federal election rules. The election clause does not provide the president with the independent power to rewrite those procedures. The states also say that the rules requirements could force election officials to purchase equipment. Again, not seeing the problem here, right? Right? They could be forced to purchase equipment, redesign ballot envelopes, retrain employees, and change procedures only weeks before voting begins. Again, not seeing the problem. Didn't we run an election not too long ago that lasted way longer than it should have? Took weeks. What are you afraid of? Accountability, responsibility? You guys should be trained yearly on procedures. You know, the funny thing is, off topic, but on topic, I've walked into federal and state government buildings and mentioned their policies to them. And did you know they didn't even know their own policies? Their own procedures, their own codes, their own mandates, their own statutes. And when you make them aware of this, they look at you like a cow staring at a barn with a new coat of paint. What? Yeah, that's what they do. They stare at you like you're stupid. They're staring a hole right through your head. But these are your policies, codes, statutes, mandates, procedures, not mine. And you don't even know them. So yes, I think this is a good idea. A federal judge had previously blocked key portions of the order, right? But the Supreme Court of the United States lifted the injunction after concluding that the state's original claims had been brought prematurely. Yeah, they jumped the gun, right? They cheated. It was a false start, right? That ruling did not determine that Trump's order was constitutional or not. It allowed implementation to move forward while legal challenges continue. Some of them might continue past 2026 midterms, which you should be learning about your candidates in your states and if you should be voting for them or not, right? However, the Postal Services has not announced that the new rules are in effect, right? So it's going to take some coordination before these things pop into place. The states are seeking another temporary restraining order. A federal hearing is scheduled for September 3rd. That means that these requirements could still be blocked, but I'm hoping they won't. I'm hoping they won't. It's baffling to me that we scream that we want America to be great. And to me, America being great isn't a Democrat or a Republican thing. It's, hey, America being what the founding fathers intended it to be in the first place, not what it's become or becoming, right? That means that if you want to have your commune in the middle of the woods in a compound that you built, as long as you're not violating anyone's constitutional amendments, you can do so. If you want to protect your weed farm with RPGs as a gay couple, whether I believe in it or agree with it or not, you should be able to do so. Why? Because those are your constitutionally protected rights. The Constitution is not giving you those rights. It protects those rights. And the Congress of the United States, notice I said the Congress, tramples them on a regular basis. Regular basis. But back on topic, mail-in voting is not automatically fraudulent, right? Military personnel use it and senior citizens use it. That's actually what it was intended for in the first place. However, you also can include people with disabilities that can't get out to vote. However, it has been grossly misused. So much so that people are voting multiple times. So much so, people that are not qualified or able to vote, as we covered last week, 24,000 people so far have been found to have voted in the 2020 elections, even though they weren't supposed to because they weren't citizens. It's been grossly overused and misused. We saw during COVID a record number of mail-in ballots used when we were perfectly able to go outside and go do it. 6 feet apart, of course. Right? So this stuff is kind of crazy, if you ask me, man. It's kind of crazy. The way I see it is we're being played. Like I said last week, 71% of people, or a week before last, maybe 71% of people want election integrity. Both Democrats and Republicans. I'm talking about the constituents. This is a bipartisan movement. So why is it that Democrats and Republicans in the Congress aren't doing anything? John Thune thought it was more, again, I'm going to beat this dead horse, or dead dog rather. He thought it was more important to have a doggy parade in the halls of Congress than it was to vote on the SAVE Act. And now you have Republicans in the House trying to pair the SAVE Act to other bills. Hey, Republicans, I thought we were single issue bills only. We jumped on the Democrats for making multi-issue bills. Why are you doing it? I don't agree with that. Even if it gets the SAVE Act passed or not. I don't agree with it. Stand on business. Say what you say, mean what you mean. Don't move the goalposts. Right? The Supreme Court removes one obstacle, and another lawsuit is filed. And voters are left wondering which rules will apply when their ballots enter the mail. This is not how confidence is built. It's not. Election rules should be clear, lawful, secure, constitutional, and established early enough for election officials and voters to understand them. Changing procedures immediately before the election creates confusion. Confusion creates mistakes. Mistakes create dispute. Disputes create lawsuits. And lawsuits filed while votes are being counted create more distrust. We saw this in the 2020 elections. President Trump is correct that mail-in voting must be secure. Eligible voters should receive the ballots. Ineligible individuals should not. Envelopes should be trackable. Everything else in this world is trackable. Right now, I could use some of those hacking tools that China uses and follow you everywhere you go. Heck, most apps give you the ability to let people see where you are 24/7. So why can't we know where our ballots are 24/7? The rules should be enforceable. And American people should not be told to ignore weakness. That's a weakness. So these 23 Democrat states and this Pennsylvania governor, what are you doing? Ignoring weakness simply because discussing them makes election officials uncomfortable. It's crazy. I don't care about how you feel. Do your job. Because if I don't do my job, I get in trouble. Or if I do my job poorly because I feel some type of way, I'm going to get fired. Now, of course, I own the business, but me and the boss had a conversation. He says, I got to do the job right or I'm done. Or in my case, I could lose my life if I do my job wrong or if I feel uncomfortable. But a president also cannot secure elections by assuming authority. The Constitution cannot be usurped, and the Constitution may not provide that ability to him. However, the president is the president of the executive, and the executive's duty is to enforce the law. If he sees that the states are not abiding by the laws, then he does have the ability to step in. Just like if a state's violating your laws, instead of creating more laws through Congress, use the constitutional authority vested in you. Go in there and start arresting people. We've moved so far away from the original intent of the Constitution that we're now on this road of depravity where we think that making a new law will fix things. Criminals don't abide by laws, stupid. And we have 535 criminals sitting in Congress right now. And some of you dummies, because you don't vote or do vote, but you vote based off of popularity, are going to go vote these dummies back in. Dummy. Oh, it's the same old thing year after year. It's President Trump's fault. It's President Biden's fault. It's President Obama's fault. 4 years, 8 years. 4 years, 8 years. Nancy Pelosi, 40 years in office. We've had, we quite literally have had our representatives die in office because they're so old. You had one lady that they didn't even know where she was. She won her election and they didn't even know where she was. She was in a mental institution at an old folks home because she had lost her damn mind. She was in the psych ward of a nursing home. And has anyone seen Mitch McConnell? Where's Waldo? Still ain't made it public. Well, actually, he did. I think they have a recording of this man, not AI, not altered. A time lapse of this man not moving for like 20 hours. I know that seems crazy. All the people are moving around him, doing back and forth. He did not budge for 20 some odd hours. That's crazy. And we've seen Mitch McConnell on live TV, C-SPAN, get stuck. Worse than Joe Biden. I'd rather have true international depression than a representative who can make laws it literally sitting there. It's crazy to me. It's absolutely asinine. But from ballots crossing state lines through the mail, we turn to products crossing the border between the United States and Canada. Because when diplomacy stalls, apparently the next step is to keep raising tariffs until somebody apologizes or runs out of steel, right? Our next story here today is trade war zone. Yeah, that's now you're understanding why I named the title of this podcast what I did. It's a war on all fronts, and it's no different here. No, we're still on the hurdle of mailing. There we go. Trade war zone, right? two of the closest trading partners in the world are still exchanging economic punches, while businesses and consumers on both sides of the border prepare to pay the bill. Now, for those that don't understand how tariffs work, because you had the Democrats spewing vacuous prattle and giving you half truths on how they work, let me give you a small class. If you know anything about shopping at Lowe's, and a lot of you do, lumber in the United States primarily comes from Canada. When we shut down the Keystone XL pipeline, Canada increased the export tariffs. Who fronted that bill? We did. The price of lumber went up. Instead of a $2.44 2x4, 8-foot 2x4, you now have a $8 2x4 because they tariffed us on the export. It works both ways. When we tariff, their prices go up. When they tariff, our prices go up. But the Democrats would have you to believe that just hearing about tariffs is going to make the price go up, and it's always going to go back to the consumer. Not always. This is where you have to know about INCO terms, international commercial terms, which are discussed before the tariff is ever put in place. But I digress. You've had your 2-minute teach talk, because I'm not doing TED Talks, right? However, the United States and Canada are sliding deeper into North American trade wars, right? After negotiations collapsed, the Trump administration imposed a 50% tariff on approximately $20 billion in Canadian imports. Now, I can go ahead and tell you, like a Miss Cleo lookalike, don't look like her, that was a joke, that Canada will lose this tariff war. We make up 77%, just about, I think it's like 76.5% of their total economic income. So they can't lose us as a partner. And they can't afford to make it up by going elsewhere, because it's a lot cheaper to ship something by truck than it is by boat. That's where those INCO terms really increase that, right? Right? So Trump hit them with a 50% tariff on $20 billion in Canadian imports. Measured in Canadian dollars, the targeted trade is worth about $27.6 billion. The tariffs apply to a wide range of Canadian products, and the affected goods include wine, cement, and certain manufactured products. Now, separate American tariffs also affect Canadian steel, aluminum, lumber, and other industrial goods. Energy, because they like to tout the fact that we pay for energy from them, which we do some, but it's negligible, right? So energy, potash is actually, one of those rare earth minerals. If you guys have been following me, certain critical minerals and other products have been exempted, because Trump, all he talked about in 2025 is rare earth minerals. He's not gonna put it on that, because, that helps us, right? But there is an important clarification that needs to be made. The new Section 338 tariffs applied to the covered Canadian products, even when those goods would be otherwise there's a bug there, sorry. Even when those goods would otherwise qualify under the United States Mexico Canada Agreement, or the UCMA for the short, those things would be exempt, right? So the USMCA compliance does not automatically exempt a product's targeted by this particular tariffs that Trump's put in place. Canada has responded by announcing its counter tariffs of 15, 25, and 50%, which is weird. That lets you know if they have tiers to their tariffs. That lets you know that they're not totally dumb and they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot, right? The rates are imposed on each targeted American product will generally match the corresponding American tariffs. Not really, because it hurts them from not selling to us, right? And they got to go through us to get to Mexico to trade with them. So it doubly hurts them, right? Canada says that the retaliation will also cover an approximately 27.6 billion in imported goods. This is Canada matching the United States dollar for dollar, allegedly. The Canadian tariffs will also target American steel, dairy products, and household appliances, agricultural equipment, pulp and paper, and electronics. So when Canada shut off the alcohol going into their country because they thought it was going to be a good idea, it actually hurt them substantially. And this too will hurt them substantially. They are scheduled to take effect on September 8th of this year, 2026. And Canada has since removed American fish and seafood from the retaliatory list. I wonder why. Not trying to starve your people out totally? Now, I butcher this word always. Saskatchewan has also announced its own 50% levy. That's what a tariff actually is a levy on American alcohol. Notice that it flipped. A lot of the provinces in Canada actually removed the total Canadian levy on alcohol because people like to get drunk when they're sad, right? So it's no different. Most of the Canadian provinces had already removed American alcohol products from the government-controlled stores, right? But a lot of them are bringing them back, right? The United States says that the tariffs are intended to pressure Canada over trade restrictions, market access, and treatment of American industries, which true purpose of a tariff is to protect the country who is implementing them, their industries. And it does work to some degree. However, this is getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand. President Trump views tariffs as leverage, and the basic argument is straightforward. If foreign governments restrict American products, subsidize domestic industries, or prevent American companies from completely competing fairly, the United States should use the access it has to basically crush them. So he's right in that aspect. And the principle is not unreasonable. America used to be a juggernaut when it came to production. We're also now just this pussycat instead of a roaring lion. So it does make sense, but it's getting out of hand because it's basically, and I know this is a family-friendly show, plug your kids' ears, this has become a dick measuring contest. And Canada, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. You rely on us too much. You do. A lot of nations do. So you're going to lose this battle. And I get playing hardball, but let's stop. You're hurting your people, and Americans are actually suffering to some degree from this. So how about we just do what's best for both nations? Why are you trying to prevent the United States from being great? It's not going to work out in your favor. It's not. It's going to shoot you in the foot because you're not able to get the products that you get for the prices, even with these tariffs implemented, that you get them for if you go elsewhere. So it's going to fold you like a wet paper towel. It really is. And you're doing this to yourself and you're hurting your people. Just like we are hurting, right? It's just not, it's not fun and games anymore. It's really not. And we just need to grow up. But from legitimate fishing products being removed from Canada's tariffs list, we can turn to fishing operations allegedly being used to hide something else entirely. Thousands of kilograms of cocaine moving from North Ecuador into the United States. Our next story here is wrong one. That screaming lady again. Sorry. Ecuadorian coke. Right? We're sliding into Ecuadorian coke. And I think I did a boo-boo. I did do a boo-boo. Ha ha ha. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I made a mistake. I don't have my information here for this. Which is fine. Just give me 1 second. Let me fix this. There we go. Here we go. I do have it here. So, I personally, before I jump into this story, I want to say I'm so sick and tired of America dealing with other nations so heavily. However, this one is actually a beneficial thing because this does benefit the United States from stopping drugs coming in. So this is a part of his America First agenda, although I do think Trump has lost sight of that. This is a part of it. I'm just so sick and tired of dealing with other nations. I really am, and a lot of people should, but this is actually beneficial. The United States is now targeting a major cocaine trafficking network operating out of Ecuador. The Treasury Department has sanctioned 15 Ecuadorian-based individuals and entities, right? It has also identified 10 vessels as blocked property. The federal authorities say that the network moved thousands of kilograms of cocaine every single month from Ecuador to other nations and including the United States, right? The drugs were allegedly transported from South America through the Eastern Pacific, even though Mexico and ultimately even through Mexico, right? Ultimately towards the United States. The network allegedly opted and operated under the appearance of a legitimate fishing business. Fishing vessels based near Manta, Ecuador, would travel into the Pacific, but instead of returning with tuna, some of those vessels carried cocaine and logistical supplies to get that cocaine to where they wanted it to be. The larger fishing vessels could remain at sea without attracting the same suspicion, as the smaller little speedboats and little fishing boats traveling hundreds of miles through smuggling routes. So if you guys recall, America was bombing the absolute hell out of these fishing vessels and speedboats because they could target them and pick up on them. But they are using larger ones and medium-sized ones to avoid detection. So once offshore vessels, once they were offshore, the offshore fishing vessels allegedly transferred the cocaine into smaller, faster boats to basically avoid the suspicion. These are commonly called go-fast vessels. Boy, they really put a lot of effort into the name on those vessels, right? The fishing fleet also provided food, fuel, and medical assistance to the smugglers. So it's basically an all-around system set up to protect this drug operation. Some of the vessels reportedly monitored the movement of law enforcement and warned the trafficking network when the authorities were nearby. The smaller boats then carried the cocaine north through the Eastern Pacific, and the drugs would eventually reach Mexico, where they would then be grabbed by the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco New Generation cartel, which we talked about earlier this year, one of the new cartels that are absolutely taking the world by storm, right? So the Treasury Department says that the Ecuadorian side of the network was constructed to or connected to the Los Choronos. I think I said that. Choronos and the Los Lobos. Those are the two of Ecuador's most violent criminal organizations. I don't know why they call them organizations when really, truly, they're gangs and cartels. So all four groups have been designated by the United States as foreign terrorist organizations, and the sanctions freeze property and financial interests of those particular groups from the American side jurisdiction that they have. This is a good thing. I'm here for it. I think it's awesome that they're doing this. But again, I am looking forward to us moving back to America First initiatives. We have done so much for everybody else all over. We're helping Ukraine. We're helping Mexico. We're helping Ecuador. And when I say helping, we're actually doing their jobs that they should be doing, right? We're going after these terrorist groups. But the American people are still suffering. Prices of food still kind of sort of high. And I love the argument And I used to argue this as well. It's not as high as what it was under Biden, but it's still high. It's still high. I'm looking for these things to actually come down because that's what was promised to me. I don't believe in going around breaking promises. Have I ever broke them? Yeah. But I've worked my butt off to make up for it and to no longer break them again, if possible. Again, I don't want to make this all about midterms, but midterms are coming up. Don't just listen to these people make empty promises that aren't going to go anywhere. Learn how to read for yourself. Learn how our government works. Learn how the processes of law are created. So when someone starts promising you things, you can look at it and say, I don't think you're going to get that passed. It's others better than you have tried. So how about you stop making these big promises to get our vote and actually make promises that you can keep? Being America first is a very valid promise that can be kept, but it hasn't been because we're occupied, politically speaking. And the interests of America aren't the interests that they're supposed to be. So I get that shutting down drug trafficking, shutting down the border, and having people from coming in is cool. But America first means shoring up our voting system. America first means teaching civics again so people know what the hell is going on. That's what America first is. But it helping other nations, cool. But having high prices on food because you want to have a dick measuring contest to see who can tariff higher, even though I do agree with some of the tariffs, not cool. We have too many people suffering. And the billionaires and the millionaires aren't suffering. I recall during COVID when Nancy Pelosi goes to one of her two $10,000 refrigerators and pulls out a $25 pint of ice cream and says that, hey, they could just eat ice cream. And that was at the behest of Trump requesting that we just pass a bill that benefits America. No, Nancy Pelosi wanted to make sure that Egypt got $25 million for roads, or actually it was gender studies, my apologies, that they ended up using for roads. Crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. The Smithsonian was fully funded. Other nations got money. Other nations even got money to help their borders in the omnibus bill. In 2018, 2019, 2020, sorry, I think it was passed. So my thing is just, let's get back to basics. Let's get back to America first and do something for us for a damn change. It'd be nice. It'd be nice. It'd be great. Now, moving on to our last story of the day. I've held you long enough and beat you over the head enough with midterms for today. We're going to be back to those midterms. Our last story here today is, if we can get over there, access denied. Access denied. This one should piss you off, if you're a Christian especially. So, brief premise. You should be angry because Americans were turned away. Not because they were presenting a threat or a genuine security issue, but because they intended to listen to Palestinian Christians and report that what they saw, right? And I hate the issue because I guess you guys can tell where we're about to go with this. I hate that they always put the adjective, because it is a descriptor, Palestinian Christian. Like that's supposed to make them any less Christian. Because what it does is, if you think about Palestine, most people think about terrorism. They think about, what is it? Not Hezbollah, but what's the one in Palestine called? Hamas. They think about Hamas. They think about terrorism when they hear Palestinian. So there's a bit of manipulation in that. These people are Christians. 13 American citizens were denied entry into Israel on August 13th. The interfaith delegation included Christians, Jews, and Muslims, right? 4 members were United Methodists. The group was led by a retired theology professor, L. Edward Phillips, and his wife. The Reverend Sarah Webb Phillips, that was his wife, was one of the big voices here. They traveled from Jordan to Sheikh Hussein Crossing, also known as the Jordan River Crossing, right? The delegation planned to spend approximately 1 week visiting Jerusalem and communities in the West Bank. Now, if you guys followed me back in around April during what we consider Easter, I call it Resurrection because Easter is a pagan holiday. The Resurrection Sunday, I was told by multiple people that I was wrong, that I lied, that I was just being anti-Semitic when I said that Christians were barred from entering the Christian district, and it comes in 4 quadrants in Jerusalem, where they have a Muslim district, a Christian district, a Jewish district, and a Armenian district where people go to worship, especially on holy days. Now, the Christians were kicked out. I had video proof of this, not from me, but actual video proof from Israel, right? Showing that Christians were being kicked out, beaten, and pushed down as they were marched out of the district. While I was given the excuse that, oh, well, they were just doing this for the safety because there's a war going on. They were doing this for the safety. Well, if they were doing it for the safety, then why did later, after they were kicked out, were Jews escorted in so they could dance and hump at a wall? Yeah, that's quite literally what the video looked like. They were dancing and humping at a wall. Why was that the case? Weren't they worried about the war and possibly being hurt? So now it's happening again. They said that the purpose for the visit to the holy sites was to meet Christians and other Palestinians living in the region, hear their experiences, and support the local Palestinian economy. These are Americans saying this, right? Their scheduled host was Sabil, who I'm going to butcher it. It's Sabil Ecumenical Liberation Theology Center. Sabil is a Christian organization registered in Israel and based in Jerusalem. It promotes Palestinian liberation theology and advocates Palestinian human rights all around, things that should happen, right? Because contrary to popular belief, a lot of Palestinians aren't Muslim. A lot of them are actually Christian. According to the members of the delegation, which included the Americans, right? Israeli border officials questioned them about their planned activities. What are you doing here? Why are you coming here? What for? And being good Christians, they told the truth. Some reportedly were accused of supporting terrorism. You get it? You get it now? Mention Palestine, and you're automatically accused of supporting terrorism when that wasn't the purpose of them coming there. Phillips went on to say one border official accused him of lying. That's not the reason why you're really here. Guys, if you can't see the beast staring you back in the mirror as we support this nation, and I don't care about Israel deserving or it needing to exist. Let them. I don't care. I don't care about their wars. Let them fight them. What I care about is that we continuously support a nation that shows us day in and day out why we shouldn't. They carpet bombed southern Lebanon. Christian. 35% of Lebanon is Christian. Almost 100% of the Christians in Lebanon exist in southern Lebanon. They carpet bombed it, all in the name of finding Hezbollah. They've passed the Shadima proposal, which allows them to go into certain parts of the West Bank and push out people from these areas. The area that was targeted, 80% of the Christians live there. And they're not going to be compensated. They're just being pushed out. We're told that secretly, privately, that southern Lebanese wanted to be annexed by Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu said this. Later, come to find out that that never happened. None of those conversations ever happened. These people just want to stop being bombed. So how long are we going to listen to lies and watch Christians die and be pushed out of their homes in a place that's supposed to be copacetic with Christians? While at the same time, you have two Islamic nations, Iraq and Iran, gearing up to have Christians return because they believe that Christians are integral parts of their history, giving them jobs, giving them land, giving them homes, having businesses come back in there, Christian businesses. This should piss you off. And if it doesn't, something is wrong with you. If you call yourself a Christian, this should piss you off. The Bible says to be angry and sin not. Righteous anger is not sinful, and you should be righteously angry over this because your brothers and sisters in Christ that one day you will spend eternity with are being persecuted. Are you praying for them? Or are you saying, oh, Israel deserves to have their land? Did you know that Israel, before Hitler did his thing, were given land known as it was the autonomous obelisk, Jewish autonomous obelisk, that is 75% larger than the land they have today, and nobody was bothering them, and it was all theirs. Nobody was going to come to take it. There was no terrorists around them. Completely theirs. Yet, here we are in a land with people that are supposed to be Christian sympathetic, that tell you that your values, Christian values, are Judeo-Christian Christian values, which is a lie. Persecuting Christians, beating Christians, spitting on Christians, kicking them out of their holy places, which is actually illegal, by the way, according to some agreements. Barring people from places, calling them terrorist sympathizers, telling them that they're lying. For what? I'm your host, American Lumberjack. This has been Timber Talk, navigating the political forest. Thank you for joining me. I hope to see you next week. And I also hope you are not missing the forest for the trees. Have a good one.